Monster Hunter Wilds beta is back, and we are running through things and doing some crazy Attack on Titan shit with dual blades. I'm loving it. I'm having a good time, but it wasn't always a great time in the beginning, especially. The controls in this game, especially if you're new, can take, well, has quite a learning curve. But there are some settings that you can change in this game that absolutely shift a whole bunch of that stuff in a really better way, in my personal opinion. I think that this game in general feels a lot better now that I'm about 3 hours in with my options changed up. And so we got to talk about some great settings that you all need to tweak in order to enhance your experience. First things first, we're gonna go to controller settings in the options, and I think dash controls, I have it set to only use L3. I feel like that's way better because before, I think by default, it's actually set to use both L3 and R1. That's pretty bad. Sometimes in combat, when you're trying to press R1, sometimes you might hold it by accident when you're trying to hit the wounds to trigger the focus strike, and you'll just start sprinting and not do anything, and also put away your weapon, which is horrible. So yeah, definitely don't use this. I feel like just L3 sprint is better. Plus, we're all pretty much conditioned to sprint with L3 in every game ever. So keep it on that. Trust me. L1 and R1 swap functions, that's entirely optional, up to you guys, whatever you want to do. I know some people like L1 and R1 to be swapped. Other than that, disable auto sheath. I have that set to disable because by default it's set to enable. Controlling when you want to sheath your weapon gives you more control of the game and gives you a better idea of how to utilize the controls in that sense. Like pressing square, I press square to sheath, and so I can like sprint and get closer and then run up and start doing some damage. So I have that set to disable. You guys can experiment with it, see what feels good for you, which by the way, all these settings are not mandatory. Of course, if I have some settings here you might not like, you might want to run something else. By all means, go for it. Item use controls. I can't tell you how many times in the beginning when I was using type 1, because type 1 is the default, I kept trying to select an item with the wheel and moving the right stick around, and I would let go and it wouldn't target it. So I have it on type 2, which you still have to move the right stick around and target it, but you click R3 in order to select the item or whatever it is you want to do. Whether you want to sharpen your weapon, whether you want to use an item, it's way better on type 2. I highly recommend it, guys. Dude, page 2, I think this is very important. I think this is probably the most important setting in this game. The aim and focus mode controls, pressing L2 to toggle it versus holding it to activate it. In this game, it may take a little bit of a learning curve to get used to free hitting without moving the camera, and also alternating the camera and moving your character's body around to properly hit the enemy that you're trying to hit. It's weird for me at first, but I got really used to toggle mode, whereas when you press L2, you're kind of always in the focus strike mode, which is a good thing because now you can kind of strafe and aim with your right stick which direction you want to throw out your attacks. I feel like this has been very important in helping me get acclimated to this game's controls and systems. I highly recommend you try this out. So you're gonna try this out and you're gonna tap L2 in battle, and it'll just, instead of holding down, you'll be able to use the right stick to kind of direct your attacks a little bit easier, which in big team fights really helps out a ton. And special shout outs to our sponsor, Instant Gaming, for hooking us up with probably the cheapest prices right now for Monster Hunter Wilds. You can get the game right now for $56. And also they got the Premium Deluxe Edition for $86 and $72. By default, if you go to Steam and you look at it right now, it is $70 for this, it is $90 for this, and it's $110 for this. I don't recommend you guys do that to yourself. Save some money and enjoy significantly discounted prices. I'm gonna be linking them down below in the description and also pinned in the comments to get you guys the ultimate savings. And not only that, they have all kinds of other games, PC and Xbox, as well as PlayStation. The sale is gonna be live forever, so feel free to save this link, and updating you guys on whether or not the prices change or update, because we got 21 days until the game drops at the end of this month on February 28th. So plenty of time, guys. I don't know why this shit is set to auto move as soon as you start the game. For whatever reason, it is. So I highly recommend you put it on manual, because sometimes when you call your sacred, you don't want to just immediately go. And with manual, you can choose if you want it to go. So if you want to look at the map for a second and just take a little bit of a break and figure out where it is you're going to go before you go, highly recommend manual movement, man. Auto move is just weird. It just starts roaming around. And still on the sacred as well, type 1, I don't like having to press R1 and R2 to either like increase my speed or decrease your speed. It's kind of like stick shift in a way. I just feel like using L right? L to sprint, L to move around is way more comfortable, especially in combat. Way less buttons to hit. You're going to be using this a lot because enemies are going to keep running away. So you want this to be as controllable as possible. I highly recommend you put this on Type 2. It feels the best. And in your controller icon, I'm using a PlayStation 5 controller right now. I'm going to experiment with mouse and keyboard eventually, but you can actually choose which icons you want. You could use the DS4 icons. You could use the PlayStation 5 icons. You can even use, I think this might be, no, that's not Nintendo Switch. A bunch of different Xbox ones. So it'll automatically choose whichever one best suits your controller. Now, your comfortability with your speed for your camera, you adjust that to however it is you want to do. I will say, though, because we have the toggle of the focus strike mode to be on, I highly recommend you adjust the camera speed for it because it is really slow. By default, it's set to 6. I put it at 13. I feel like I might raise this up even more. I might go to 15 on this, but if you're gonna use a toggle for this, or you're just gonna be using this in general more, whether you're holding it or not, I highly recommend you raise this up. It's really slow by default. And not only that, we have the camera distance zoom. By default, it's really kind of zoomed in, and in this game, there's big ass monsters constantly that you're fighting. And if you got a bunch of teammates on the field as well, you kind of want to see more of it. I wish I could even zoom this out more. Maybe I'll be able to mod that eventually when the full game drops, but max this out. I highly recommend it. Just seeing more of the battlefield, more of the enemy, gives you an easier opportunity and windows to dodge, so I can't recommend it enough. For me, I kind of took the ambient camera sway off, just try to reduce as much of that as possible. And camera shake is about, it was set by 5. I don't know. I mean, I still want the battles to feel intense. I still want attacks to feel very powerful, so I keep it on 3. I don't think 5 is needed. But yeah, I've also been seeing people talk about focus camera. So it'll lock the camera onto a targeted monster and keep it in view. It's pretty good for your first encounters, I hear. So I'm actually going to turn this on and experiment with it more. But I've had it disabled, and I do kind of find it a little harder to have the camera constantly moving off of the enemy, if that makes sense. And that's it for the actual personal options. Unfortunately, we are not able to actually tweak the DLSS. We are locked into DLSS 3.5 for this, and it can't even change the FSR to 3.1 either. So the benchmark is the updated performance version of what you could expect for the final game build to be like. Whereas this beta, they already told us this, but this beta is actually the previous beta's optimizations where there were none, and the game isn't running that great. So I'm actually having to run this on ultra performance, medium graphics, DLSS. I tried to use FSR frame generation, but it looked like butt. Like, it was actually doing a hell of a lot of ghosting. It's really disappointing, but I've already tried. I actually put DLSS4 in the game, tried putting it in the folder and everything and forcing it. It did not want to use it, so a little unfortunate there. And so far, that's about it for Monster Hunter Wilds. I mean, I honestly think that these controls right here, these settings are perfect. The ones that I changed it to, because by default, it's not great. It doesn't feel good at all. And personally, I highly recommend you change some of this stuff up. And like I said, experiment, see what you like more, what you don't like. Maybe you might find a different setting or a different option that I may have missed. And, you know, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. So far, these battles have been intense. I've been playing with people in the chat, and we have some sick matches. And, yo, Dual Blades is just style, bro. We're not doing a whole lot of damage, but when the opportunities come to deal damage to wounds and strike them in style, it's fucking amazing. I love it. 10 out of 10 game already, and it's just the beta. Have you been liking your Monster Hunter Wilds beta experience so far? I want to hear what you guys think. Have you been able to beat Arkveld yet? I'm hearing a lot of people are having trouble with him. I just personally beat Raydal with a friend, a bunch of friends, or shout outs to you guys. So we're going to be tackling that tomorrow, later today. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you are new. More Monster Hunter Wilds videos are on the way, and you don't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ, and thanks for watching.